You can walk into almost any discount store, any convenience store, anywhere in the country, and you will see the same scene repeating itself. The people who are under the most financial pressure are often spending money on things that make that pressure worse, not because they are careless, but because no one taught them how money behaves over time. I have watched this pattern for decades. Different families, different cities, different incomes, but the same outcome. Money comes in, money goes out. Nothing left over, no progress. And when you slow down and look carefully, the same categories of spending show up again and again, month after month, year after year. The real damage is not caused by one bad decision. It is caused by small decisions repeated consistently. Individually, they seem harmless. Collectively, they shape an entire financial life. This is how people stay stuck without ever realizing when or why it happened. Many people believe poverty is caused by low income, but I have seen plenty of people with reasonable earnings who never move forward financially. The real issue is not how much money you make this year. It is how you treat every dollar the moment it enters your hands. I grew up during the Great Depression. My family did not have much, but my father taught me one simple lesson that later proved more valuable than any investment strategy. He taught me that money is not meant to reduce discomfort today. It is meant to create stability tomorrow. The difference between poor thinking and wealthy thinking is not lifestyle. It is perspective. Poor thinking says, I have money today, so I will spend it today. Wealthy thinking says, I have money today, so I will put it to work for the future. This idea sounds simple, and that is why most people ignore it. They focus on how something feels right now. They look at today's price, not tomorrow's cost. They measure comfort in the present, not consequences in the future. That is where financial problems quietly begin. When people make purchases, the most dangerous question is not, can I afford this? The more dangerous question is it cheap? Cheap today does not mean inexpensive over time. Many low-priced purchases end up being extremely costly once you account for lost opportunity. Most people never calculate opportunity cost. They do not ask what that money could become if it were left alone to grow for 10, 20, or 30 years. They only see a few dollars leaving today. They do not see the hundreds of thousands that disappear quietly in the future. Wealthy thinking always connects money with time. A dollar is not just a dollar, it is a seed. If you spend it, the seed is gone. If you invest it, time does the heavy lifting. But time only works for people who are patient and disciplined. The 7 things I am about to explain are not luxury items. That is exactly why they are dangerous. They feel normal. They feel reasonable. They do not make you poor overnight. They make you poor slowly, while everything still feels manageable. Each of these purchases targets a very human weakness, the desire for comfort now, relief now, convenience now. The cost is always delayed, and delayed costs are the easiest to ignore, especially when life already feels difficult. This is not about blame. These habits can be changed, not with luck, not with a sudden raise, but by learning to look at familiar expenses with a calmer, more disciplined lens. When thinking changes, behavior follows naturally. And when behavior changes consistently, results change. Not quickly, not dramatically, but reliably. This is how real wealth is built in the real world, quietly, over time, without shortcuts. In the next part, I will begin with the first 2 purchases I see most often holding people in the exact same financial position for years at a time. The first purchase that quietly destroys more wealth than almost anything else is a brand new car. I see this pattern constantly. Someone gets a stable job, finally earns a decent paycheck, and decides it is time to reward themselves. They walk into a dealership and sign a long-term loan without realizing what they have just given up. A new car loses roughly 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Not over a year, not over 5 years, immediately. You can pay $35,000 in the morning and own something worth $28,000 by the afternoon. That loss is real, even if you never think about it again. Over the next 5 years, that same car will lose another 40 to 50% of its value. Meanwhile, you are still making monthly payments, often with interest, on an asset that keeps shrinking. The mistake is not buying transportation. The mistake is paying full price for depreciation. People justify new cars by focusing on the monthly payment. That is how the trap works. Wealth is not destroyed by large numbers all at once. It is destroyed by manageable numbers repeated every month for years. When you look at the total cost, including interest and lost investment returns, the real price becomes clear. The alternative is not complicated. Buy a used car that is 2 to 4 years old. Someone else has already absorbed the steepest depreciation. The car still has most of its useful life left, but you keep thousands of dollars that can be invested instead of evaporating in a parking lot. If the difference between a new car and a used one is $15,000, that difference matters. Invested consistently over decades, that single decision can grow into a significant portion of a retirement fund. This is not about sacrifice. It is about choosing future stability over temporary satisfaction. The second purchase that keeps people financially stuck is lottery tickets and scratch-off games. The lottery survives because it sells hope, not probability. When money is tight and the future feels uncertain, the idea of a sudden escape can feel comforting, even rational. But hope without math is not a strategy. The odds of winning a major lottery jackpot are so small that they are almost meaningless. People spend small amounts regularly, telling themselves it is harmless. Over time, those small amounts add up to a meaningful loss. Many low-income households spend a noticeable percentage of their income on lottery tickets. Money that could have been saved or invested is instead exchanged for a fantasy. The real tragedy is not losing the ticket. It is losing the opportunity that money could have created. If the same amount spent on lottery tickets were invested consistently, the outcome would be predictable. Not exciting, not immediate, but almost guaranteed over a long enough period. Wealth does not come from unlikely events. It comes from repetition and time. The lottery promises freedom without discipline. Investing requires discipline without excitement. One feels good today, the other works quietly in the background. The difference only becomes obvious years later, when one path leads to dependence and the other leads to options. Giving up lottery tickets is not about giving up hope. It is about redirecting hope towards something that actually works. When you invest regularly, hope is no longer a wish. It becomes a process. In the next part, I will explain 2 more financial traps that appear harmless on the surface, but create some of the most damaging cycles I have ever seen. The third trap is payday loans and cash advance services. These exist for one reason only: to profit from desperation. They are marketed as short-term solutions, but in reality, they are long-term liabilities that drain money faster than almost any other financial product. The structure is simple. You borrow a small amount and agree to pay it back in a few weeks with a fee. That fee may look manageable, but when you convert it into an annual rate, the cost becomes extreme. In many cases, the interest rate exceeds 300% per year. The real danger is not the first loan. It is what happens next. Most people who take a payday loan are already living paycheck to paycheck. When repayment time arrives, the money is still not there. So the loan is rolled over and another fee is added. This cycle repeats itself. Fees accumulate, the original balance remains. What began as a temporary fix becomes a permanent drain. People end up paying far more in fees than the amount they originally borrowed, while their financial position continues to deteriorate. The solution is not convenient, but it is less damaging. Building even a small emergency fund reduces dependence on these products. When emergencies happen before that fund exists, negotiating with landlords, utility companies, or employers is still less costly than paying triple-digit interest. The fourth trap is rent-to-own furniture and electronics. This model survives because it focuses attention on monthly payments instead of total cost. A sofa or television is presented as affordable because the payment appears small and manageable. When you calculate the full term of those payments, the truth becomes uncomfortable. Items that sell for a modest retail price end up costing several times their value. The customer pays a premium not for quality, but for the ability to delay payment. Rent-to-own companies are not confused about this. Their business depends on customers who cannot access traditional credit and who are under pressure to furnish their homes immediately. The urgency of the moment is used to justify an irrational long-term cost. There is nothing wrong with wanting a comfortable living space. The mistake is confusing urgency with necessity. Used furniture, second-hand markets, and patience can provide the same function without locking you into years of payments. Ownership matters. When you own something outright, it stops costing you money. When you rent possessions, the meter never stops running. Wealth is built by reducing ongoing drains, not by adding new ones disguised as convenience. Both payday loans and rent-to-own purchases share the same flaw. They solve a short-term problem by creating a long-term burden. They trade relief today for restriction tomorrow. In the next part, I will cover two more expenses that appear responsible and even sensible, but quietly erode financial progress when used without discipline. The fifth expense that quietly drains money is extended warranties and insurance on small items. These offers sound responsible. They appeal to caution and risk avoidance. But when you examine them calmly, the math rarely supports the decision. Most electronics already come with a manufacturer's warranty. Many credit cards extend that coverage automatically. When you buy an extra protection plan, you are often paying a significant amount for a narrow window of additional coverage that is unlikely to be used. Statistically, most products fail early or last far beyond the warranty period. You are insuring against a low probability event while giving up money that could have been saved or invested. Over time, those small insurance premiums add up to a meaningful opportunity cost. Phone insurance follows the same pattern. Monthly fees feel insignificant, but they accumulate. When something breaks, there's often a deductible on top of what you have already paid. In many cases, self-insuring by saving that money produces a better outcome. Insurance is essential when a loss would be financially devastating your home, your health, your ability to earn an income. Insuring small, replaceable items is usually unnecessary. Wealth grows faster when you reserve insurance for true risks and handle minor ones yourself. The sixth trap is excessive spending on cable television and streaming services. Individually, these subscriptions seem harmless. Together, they become a permanent monthly obligation that produces no long-term value. Many households pay for multiple streaming platforms, premium channels, and bundled services they rarely use. The cost is justified as relaxation or reward. But when you calculate the annual and long-term total, the trade-off becomes clear. Money spent on entertainment subscriptions does not grow. It does not compound. Once it is spent, it is gone. Over 10 years, even modest monthly fees can equal the value of a meaningful investment account. This is not an argument against entertainment. It is an argument for limits. Choosing one or two services and rotating them reduces cost without eliminating enjoyment. Discipline does not require deprivation. It requires intention. People often say they deserve these comforts because they work hard. That is understandable. But long-term security is also something you deserve. Financial stability provides a different kind of peace. one that lasts longer than any show. When recurring expenses are trimmed carefully, progress becomes visible. The money does not feel dramatic at first, but when it is redirected consistently, it begins to work quietly in the background. In the next part, I will address the final and most common habit that slowly erodes financial progress, followed by a clear summary of how all 7 traps connect. The 7th habit is spending on fast food and convenience purchases. This one is the most dangerous because it rarely feels significant. A few dollars here, a quick meal there, nothing that seems worth worrying about in isolation. But convenience has a price, and that price compounds. Buying lunch every workday costs far more than most people realize. Over months and years, those small daily decisions quietly consume money that could have built security elsewhere. Preparing simple meals at home costs less and creates margin. The difference may only be a few dollars a day, but those dollars are repeatable. When repeated consistently, they turn into thousands over time, especially when invested instead of spent. Convenience stores operate on the same principle. You pay several times the normal price for speed and accessibility. The extra cost feels invisible because it is spread across many small purchases. But invisibility does not reduce impact. Each time convenience is chosen over planning, money is exchanged for momentary ease. There is nothing wrong with occasional convenience. The problem arises when it becomes a default habit rather than a conscious choice. All 7 of these spending habits share the same foundation. They prioritize immediate comfort over long-term benefit. They focus attention on today's relief while quietly postponing tomorrow's cost. None of these decisions are catastrophic on their own. That is what makes them dangerous. They do not feel like mistakes. They feel normal. And normal, repeated long enough, becomes permanent. Wealth is rarely destroyed by dramatic events. It is eroded by routine, monthly payments, subscription fees, small indulgences that never appear large enough to challenge. The common thread is not income level, it is behavior. 2 people can earn the same amount and end up in very different places depending on how consistently they protect their future from short-term trade-offs. Every dollar spent on convenience, entertainment, excess, or unnecessary protection is a dollar that cannot compound. It loses the ability to work quietly in the background over time. When these habits are left unexamined, they create a feeling of stagnation. Effort increases, stress increases, but progress does not. The cause is rarely obvious because it is spread across many small decisions. Recognizing these patterns is not about guilt. It is about clarity. Once the pattern is visible, it becomes harder to ignore and easier to change. In the final part, I will explain the underlying reason these habits are so persistent and outline a simple, disciplined plan to reverse their effect over time. When you step back and look at all 7 habits together, a single pattern becomes clear. None of them are about intelligence. None of them are about ambition. They are about preference. Specifically, the preference for relief now over stability later. Human beings are naturally wired for short-term comfort. We feel today more clearly than we imagine tomorrow. That is why these habits persist. They offer immediate ease while quietly transferring the cost into the future, where it is harder to feel and easier to ignore. Poor financial outcomes are rarely the result of one terrible choice. They are the result of many small, reasonable choices made without considering time. The damage is slow, predictable, and almost invisible while it is happening. Wealthy thinking does not eliminate comfort. It delays it. It asks one question repeatedly: what does this decision cost me in 10 or 20 years? That single question changes behavior more reliably than any motivational speech. The solution is not dramatic. It does not require quitting everything at once. It requires structure. Start by identifying Which of these 7 habits exists in your life right now? Write it down. Seeing it clearly is the first act of control. Next, measure it. Look at your bank statements for the past 3 months. Do not estimate. Calculate. Add up the real number and multiply it to see the annual cost. Numbers remove emotion and replace it with clarity. Then choose one habit to eliminate or reduce. Not the hardest one, the easiest one. Momentum matters more than intensity. When one small change works, confidence grows and discipline becomes easier to repeat. Take the money you save and redirect it immediately. Do not let it sit where it can be spent. Set up an automatic transfer into an investment account, a retirement account, or even a simple savings account if that is your starting point. Automation is important because it removes willpower from the equation. Discipline is not about constant effort. It is about systems that function even when motivation is low. After 3 months, repeat the process. Identify a second habit. Cut it. Redirect the savings. Progress is built layer by layer, not all at once. This approach is slow by design. Slow means sustainable. Sustainable means reliable. Over time, small redirected amounts begin to compound, and the results start to feel surprisingly large. Wealth is not built by earning extraordinary amounts of money. It is built by keeping more of what you earn and allowing time to work on your behalf. That principle has remained unchanged for generations. Here is the discipline test. Choose one item from this list that you will stop buying this week. Write it down. Place it somewhere visible. Each time you are tempted, remember what you are really choosing. You are not choosing to save a few dollars. You are choosing whether your future self has options or limitations. That choice appears small, but repeated over years, it determines outcomes. The people who succeed financially are not the smartest or the luckiest. They are the most consistent. And consistency is nothing more than a series of small decisions honored over time